Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. So today I have a guest with me who I actually used to work with at Countrywide. So it's nice to have him on and have a familiar face on here. So he's now actually come out of the estate agency world and started his journey with Movin Legal as a business development manager. So we're going to talk today about Movin Legal, the market at the moment, how they're seeing it from the legal side of things, because I know things are taking a bit longer to go through at the moment. The average, I think, from sale to completion is a bit longer. So we're going to talk about that, but also how Movin Legal have made a name for themselves online. So they're only 5 years old, but they're one of the brands. And if you're a mortgage advisor, you probably have seen them all over LinkedIn. And there's one particular lady that Adam's spoken about who says is everywhere, which is a positive. I'm going to talk about how they've made that impact online. But before we get into that, I'm going to welcome Adam onto the podcast, mate. How are we doing?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Chris. Good to see you.
I think there was just a bit of a lag there. I don't know if it's my internet, but we're on. How's things? How's business going at the minute?
Yeah, it's really, really good. We're keeping busy. We're growing at a good pace. And I think we're seeing the market, although reacting to a lot of up and downs in recent months, being really stable and people having some good confidence to do business, which is great.
Are you finding at the minute, are you finding the purchase work slowing down, or are you still seeing it the same levels as it was?
So from our side, from my point of view, at the start of the year, it was quieter, as most people probably expect. But as we came closer to kind of the spring marketplace, that kind of general spike in activity, we have seen a lot more purchase work going on compared to sort of quarter four last year. It has increased a lot, which is positive. And what surprised me as well is actually the amount of buy-to-let purchase work that we're seeing coming through.
Right.
I'd have expected to have seen that drop a lot, but it's going really well.
Yeah, that's because where I live now, there's been loads of there's little 2-bed Victorian terraces that are perfect for rentals. And we've seen a load of them come on the market that are no chain, so they're obviously been rented, and loads of them have been sold. But I suppose if you think about it on the flip side, somebody's got to buy them. So it might be a buy-to-let landlord that's snapping them up again.
That's it. It's automatically think they're being pushed down a certain route to sell those types of homes, and it's for the first-time buyers and second-time movers, which is great, which is what we want to see. But yeah, there's first-time landlords out there that are taking advantage of having more choice. Or not being in such a competitive scenario against other investors or cash buyers.
Yeah, good point. Not as competitive as it was last year. So obviously you're talking about properties here because that's your background. So before we get into the nitty gritty of Movin Legal, give us a background of who you are, how you got into the industry, and why you made that switch from estate agency into Movin Legal.
Yeah, so my background, just over 10 years working as an estate agent, which is obviously where we met at Dixon's Countrywide. 10 years, which went really fast. Which is crazy, really. And it gave me a lot of insight to a lot of things to do with property, whether it's mortgages, conveyancing, obviously estate agency itself. I'm now dad of 2 within the last sort of 12 months, and that played a big role in me not being in that 9 to 5, 9 to 6, every other Saturday, tied at the desk in an estate agent in an office, and just wanting to be in a role which was a bit more flexible, could offer me some opportunity to work from home, and just spend more time with the family. So that's what kind of made me broaden my horizons and look out and do something a bit different, to be honest with you.
Here's a question for you, and it's one thing that I've struggled with since moving from estate agency to this is, what do you do with all your ties? Well, I've got that many ties in a carrier bag in the wardrobe that I've been using for the last, when I was an estate agent, and now I think I use once every 2 years for a wedding.
It's crazy. I must have had about 10 different ties that you accumulate over the years. You buy the set from Next with 2 shirts and tie combos, all those ones you kind of get along the way. In probably the last couple of years of being at estate agency, my partner bought me a really nice tie, so I've kept that one. And I've kept the black one as well, which is obviously a bit like,
you've got to have a black
now and then for bad things, but all the rest have gone. I don't wear them anymore.
Nice.
So you kind of found their way to the charity shop.
quarter zip from M&S. That's what you need. That's the special one now. That's the little quarter zip top. Okay, that's awesome. So you had the background in a estate agency, and we'll go into a bit more depth later, but you really made a name for yourself in the online world, didn't you, with content? Why did you decide to don't give us too much, but why did you decide to go into the online world with your personal brand, really?
So again, whilst in agency, I worked at a company at the time, DM & Co, who were one of the prevalent agents for their social media marketing, and they still are today. Dominic was really passionate about giving the customer a different insight or a different angle to be able to get to know me personally as an agent, but also with the company, but also a different angle maybe of the property or how the sellers use that property, or just obtaining more information more easily before obviously arranging the viewing and going to see it. So I did a lot with Instagram, is the platform that I chose to use. I started off mainly doing a lot of posts about just the general market, or posting pictures of the properties that I listed. But soon found that like the engagement in terms of how many likes or comments I got wasn't particularly great. So I moved a bit more towards videos, house tours, being more topical, asking questions or giving more advice about the market rather than just saying, this is what I've done or this is what I've listed, just to try and get people more engaged with the content I was posting, really.
And that's good that you assessed what was going on and made changes. And I just wanted to ask that question to give people a bit of a taster to listen on, because we're going to go into social media a bit later on. But let's talk about what you're doing right now. So you're at Movin Legal. What do Movin Legal offer? How can they help mortgage advisors, estate agents? What do you guys do to help make their lives easier?
So on that whole of what we offer, what we do, in theory, if the way I explain it in the most simple terms is thinking of going to get an online insurance quote for your car or your home at a click of a button. So we provide that for conveyancing solutions for estate agents and mortgage advisors. So you could obtain a quote for any type of legal work, whether it be purchase, a sale, remortgage, a bridging, commercial, all types of conveyancing. And it literally takes just a minute or two to generate your quote, be spoke to your client of any disbursements that may need to be added on along the way, instantaneous, rather than what I've done in the past working with other local solicitors or other ways of getting solicitor referrals. Is you send them an email to a new business, you wait a day or two to get it back, your client's already gone and instructed a law firm that they found online, and you're losing business and you're losing time, most importantly. So we have a solution where you can get a fixed cost really quick, and we have just under 60 law firms that are working with us that we manage to keep to a certain standard that we believe is right for both our clients, the brokers, and their customers, the homeowners or buyers as well.
So that's one of my points, and we're going to put you on the spot here, because when I was an estate agent, there was something we used something similar, and it would come up with the quotes of all the different solicitors, and there'd be one that would be favorited because they'd be on one of our cases. Jane Smith would be dealing with it, so it'd be like, right, that's the quote we want to use. But then what we ended up doing is making Jane Smith so busy because she was so good that then Jane Smith doesn't have the time to deal with it, and all these spinning plates, then a couple of them slip. How would you make sure that Jane Smith solicitors doesn't become overwhelmed? Is there anything you got in place to do?
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that you've got to be mindful of, because when you get those return searches of law firms, you don't want 80% of your work going to 20% of your law firms. So what we aim to do is make the solicitors' pricing on there as competitive as possible. So between the top maybe 1 to 10 law firms, there might only be a split of £100 in terms of the costing of their fees.
Oh, okay.
Because people, as natural as human instincts, price is a big driving factor for a lot of people. So we try and give people choice on pricing. We also have a lot of control over how many cases each law firm can take. So when they get to a capacity, so for example, let's say we've got Adam Henry Law Firm on our panel, I might say we as a company can only facilitate taking on 30 to 40 new files a month. So we automatically put that in place that when a broker then goes to quote, they've disappeared, but it's due to capacity reasons. So we then maintain the service that's being received.
That's good, because that was always a big thing. We get excited and we go, "Oh, Jane Smith's such a good solicitor. We're going to throw everything at her." And then the next month she goes, "Guys, I'm drowning here." And then it would have been good for that company to put something in place to nip that in the bud, which is obviously exactly what you guys are doing. So me talking about that, there obviously are other options out there. What makes you guys different from others that are out there?
I think from the angle where we come at as probably a bit more of a disruptor to the market, because we're one of the newer platforms that have kind of come into the marketplace over the recent years, as you mentioned earlier. What we've had to do to make us gain the market share that we have and to grow as quickly as we have is to make sure we're providing the best service as possible to the brokers and the estate agents. Ultimately, we need to manage the law firms, but it's the relationships that we have with our users that makes us worthwhile coming back to. I've always been a firm believer that if you tell someone you're going to do something for them, you better do it. And I think that's a lot of the way that we run the business, is making sure that we go back to every client, that we can be as proactive as possible, and just be as helpful as we can.
And you guys do something where you've kind of got certain things that you're promoting, like you're promoting something at the minute where, what was it, protection, a certain...
our home buyer protection policy. So that's a great tool, for a business winning tool for our brokers, whereby we provide an insurance policy that brokers can offer to their clients for free. And in today's market, where people are really money savvy, they're cautious about what's happening. There's obviously a lot of negativity that gets spun around in the news. So people are being cautious with their money. It will cover them for up to £600 worth of cover on their legal fees for various different reasons. Some of the main ones are the vendor they're buying from withdraws from sale. So over the last 12 months, we've seen a lot of that with people not being able to find onward purchases. So that's a great safety blanket for them. Covers them against 10% if the property gets downvalued by 10% or more. They get an unforeseen illness, lose their job, or they get gazumped. And it's just something to make, particularly first-time buyers or maybe second-time movers who are tighter on budgets, just feel that bit more confident about their house purchasing process.
Decent. And you were talking about one of the other USPs that you've got is the relationships you're building with people. And personally, I know that's true just because, and I haven't got an affiliation with Movin Legal whatsoever, just to put that disclaimer out there, but I knew of Movin Legal before you started with them. And the reason is, obviously, I spend a lot of time on social media. On LinkedIn, I was seeing a lot of people get like the brand merch, so the cups and the towels and the balls and the stress balls, that kind of thing.
Doggy biscuits.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in a second, actually, because that's quite cool. But everybody in the UK, if they're a bank, have got branded merchandise, right? They send it out to everybody. What's powerful is when a broker or an estate agent gets that piece of merchandise, why would they upload a photo of it to LinkedIn? Because everybody's doing it. And the reason, I think, is because they want to see this company succeed, or they have a previous relationship with somebody in the company and they want them to win. So those photos show to me, if they're taking photos of branded merchandise, somebody at the company,
they're getting it from everywhere, left, right, and centre, aren't they?
That's what I mean. Like they get 1,000 pens every year, but why have they taken a photo of your pen over the others? It's not the pen. It's the way that relationship has been built between somebody at your company and that broker itself. So what would you say your company does different online? Because let's be honest, everybody could be more online. Okay. But you guys obviously do it well and do it consistently. What do people in your teams, I know you were speaking about one particular lady who does it really well. What does she do different that Smith's Legal doesn't do?
Hayley is the lady that I mentioned. And I imagine a couple of people out there that end up watching this podcast have probably seen her or been bombarded by her. We all joke at Movin Legal that if anything stays still too long, Hayley's going to brand it.
Is it? She just sticks everything.
Her car, her dog, her shoes, her earrings, it's all branded. And I think the big thing with like anything you're going to do, whether it's a sport, it's any kind of hobby, it's social media, it's about being consistent and committed to doing it and believing in what you're doing. Paddy's presence on LinkedIn is huge. LinkedIn isn't a platform I've really used before. I used to just use Instagram in my agency. So I'm really new to using that just this year. So I'm still trying to make as many connections as possible. And I've been learning a lot about Hayley, about how she approaches new business, how she stays in touch with clients. And she really pushes the branded merch and getting it out there. But the people that she, like you say, has those great relationships with that have been built up over, 3 years or 1 year or 6 months, that trust element is then what enables her to be effective when she can start sharing content that isn't what she's just putting out there. It's like, you don't have to take my word for it, see what X, Y, Z have done and what they say about us. And I think that's when it becomes
really powerful,
meaningful. Yeah.
And talking about social media, like at the moment, we all think social media is the answer. And we all think that, excuse me, we can put a social media post out or a month's worth of social media posts and it will bring business, but it's not the only way to do it. And what you guys did, and I think a lot of mortgage advisors can learn from this, is you guys sponsored the football team at TMG's event, didn't you? And I saw that, and that is such a good way that isn't involved in social media. Like thinking outside the box of, right, where can we hit home? Where can we put our name in front of our ideal customers? And that TMG event was, and you obviously got to play football off the back of it as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I'm still aching.
When was it? Last week?
So it was last Friday, yeah. And it was a great day, actually, that TMG put on. So we got to the final, Movin Legal. Our team did quite well. We lost 4-1. We played at Peterborough United at London Road Stadium.
Nice.
Some of the staff weren't particularly happy that day because they'd just been knocked out the night before to Sheffield Wednesday in the playoff.
Oh, right. Yes, yeah. When they were 4-0 up and they ended up losing on penalties.
Yeah. Tragic, isn't it?
But this just goes to show that if you're a mortgage advisor, yes, this podcast is all talking about marketing and social media, but don't forget the sponsor in the local fairs. I wouldn't really, for me, magazine adverts don't really work. The ones that you get through your letterbox. I don't feel that anybody reads those anymore, but there's going to be lots of fairs coming up in the local area. Can you put your poster up in a local teacher's room, or can you put a poster up in your local village hall? It's that type of stuff that will set you apart from other businesses at the minute.
Yeah.
You need to make sure social media is a part of it, but don't just rely on social media. I think that's what I'm trying to get the message across.
It's good to be able to get yourself out there, to be present. And then when they want to come back and find you, you're easily findable on social media, and then they can find you and get what they need. I think there's been good opportunities with like the King's Coronation, Jubilee and sponsorship, and
very good point,
it's local community stuff, isn't it? Although we're working on a national scale, but if you work with people in your local community, then it grows outwards, doesn't it? And word of mouth and stuff like that.
Exactly. And so we've talked about LinkedIn and how Hayley does it on LinkedIn, and it'd be really good to get her on the podcast actually and talk it through. As long as she doesn't brand me up, it will be all right.
You might get like a Movin Legal backgrounds behind you or something during the podcast.
Some blokes with like hoodies on like this just stood behind her. But let's talk about how you utilized Instagram, because there'll be a lot of people that are listening to this that maybe haven't used Instagram before. Yeah. And it's interesting that you weren't talking about the property itself, because as an estate agent or a mortgage broker, it's very easy just to say, this is my product, buy it. Mm-hmm. What did you do differently that worked on Instagram? So first thing, let's talk about your posts. So you made the shift from a static post into, you did videos as well in the end.
Yeah. So going from just putting a picture of the front of the house, like you're saying, this is the product, it's a 3-bed semi, it's £400,000. That's great. People can see that, but they can see that everywhere else. So what I started doing more about was, what are the hot spots? Where do people want to buy a house? Mm-hmm. And let's go away and give them some information. So in Shirley, the house price have increased by this % over the last 12 months. If you want a 2-bed or a 3-bed, this is the kind of price you should be spending, or this is the kind of roads where you could find that type of property, and just be more informative to people. And I feel like they would engage with that a lot more. And and then doing kind of house tours, but not just making it just about the house. We're saying, well, this house is on Adams Road, but actually, well, this is great is because of, and then transitioning to a bit of information about the local school around the corner, or the gastro pub that's really popular and there's amazing Sunday lunches around the corner, or the park for the dog, and selling not just the product but the lifestyle that came with it.
Yeah, and that's
what I think made a difference.
The reason I wanted people to listen to that is you've kind of taken a flip on it, and this is what we speak to people about as a mortgage advisor. It's very easy just to get bogged down in the mortgage rates and this and that, but can you switch something in the mortgage business or in the local area that you can make content about? And when you're doing the videos, how did you do the videos? Was it on a fancy camera? Was it on your mobile? How did you do it?
So it started off doing it on my mobile phone, generally taking photos. But with the company that I worked for at the time, then we did have some really good equipment, which kept the camera stable for like all the house tours. So that part of my content looked, very recording, very professional. But then what I used to do away from posting content, when I used to do my stories, so I might have been out and about, this is where I am today, this is what I'm doing, this is a sneak peek, or whatever it might be that I was sharing. And that was all done from my mobile phone. And it felt like that was a bit more of an insight to me and what I was doing in the role. And my posts were a bit more about the houses and the
polished stuff.
There were like two different views.
And that's why I wanted to ask you about the polished stuff is on your grid. But then you're in, like I say to people, your phone is more than sufficient. If you've got access to a film crew like you did, then use it. But your phone's more than efficient. And I just wanted you to tell that story because, and you went onto Instagram stories, the difference between an Instagram story and an Instagram post. Because I heard somebody related to it, like your Instagram grid is when an estate agent comes round to you and comes to value your house. Everything looks pretty, everything's in place. There's nothing that is out of place and it's there for the best aesthetics. Your Instagram stories, to me, is your behind the scenes stuff. So it's your house, like you're running it on a day-to-day basis. That's when the estate agent leaves. That's your Instagram stories, is behind the scenes content. That's what you need to be using Instagram stories for over Instagram grids. And that's exactly what you did, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And it's that kind of catchphrase of Instagram versus reality, and just giving people that insight to actually what goes on in the day-to-day running of your business or your life, and just making them feel more involved.
And it's so much easier to get in touch with you and warm to you as a person, because if they're only looking at photos of the front of a house, they don't know who you are. Whereas if they watch your stories and they're getting to know you've been in the park, or you've been with a little one, or you've been walking to a house, or you've been this local shop, it opens you up to conversations, and that can lead to business then, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's about brand recognition, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the points in my life when I realised it was actually starting to work doing that, I pulled into my local McDonald's. I went round through the drive-through. I ordered my coffee, as I did most mornings, cappuccino, and I got to the window to collect my coffee. And the girl at McDonald's went to me, "You're that estate agent that's off YouTube?" Because all the videos we used to share, the company I work for used to then post them onto a YouTube channel.
Right.
Just slumped into the seat of my car like half the dance.
Yeah, whatever. You're like, do you want me to sign the cup for you?
Yeah, that's it to the bottom. But it took months and months and months before anything really came of it. And it's just about being consistent and continuing to push it.
I was talking to a guy who's massive on TikTok. Everybody will know him, Glenn Russell in the mortgage world. And he was talking to other people about how he's successful on TikTok, like 500,000 followers. His videos get like 1 million views. And they're like, how do you do it? He says, I've uploaded 900 videos in the last 3 years. That's how I've done it. There's no secret to it. Like, you didn't upload a video and it reached thousands of people. You uploaded 100 videos over the course of 6 months, and then you start to get noticed. It's having that consistency, isn't it? And I suppose that leads me perfectly into my next question is, what are you going to do with Movin Legal on, because LinkedIn is going to be the platform, are you going to adopt the same approach? Are you going to have a slightly different approach? What's your plan with it?
I think my approach will aim to be similar, because it's kind of proven that it works. And I think if you've got a tried and tested method, sometimes it's good to stick with that. But it's then just about making it personable to me and what I'm doing, and finding things geographically in the area that I cover that are relevant to the people that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's just about being visual, being out there, and offering support is basically what I want to do with my posts. I don't want to talk about necessarily how we're expanding or how good we're doing, or that kind of part of the business. I want to be out there for people to know that, oh yeah, that's Adam, he's at Movin Legal. I've met him before, or he's messaged me in the past, and I just want people to know that I'm there to support them or to give them advice if and when they should need it.
If they need it. So you're not shouting at them to come and use business. I found it really valuable when somebody phoned me last week. We had a sales call, and I said, how did you hear about us? He says, well, you've given all this free stuff away on how to use Canva and how to use social media on LinkedIn. Yeah. And he says, I've done it. It's taken me too long. So now I'm just coming to you because you've given me all this free stuff. So I'd rather give the business to you.
That's full circle.
Yeah, exactly the same, isn't it? It's just try and think, anybody listening, try and think of your social media content as value adding rather than just always about business. You need the business stuff to say, like you talking about your home buyer protection, that's a USP. That's something that is a buying tool. But otherwise, just all about adding value to your audience. It will be key. And Adam proved it with his Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
So where is the best place for people to reach you, Adam, if they want to have a chat?
Best place, I would say, get me on LinkedIn. Search from there, Adam Henry. You'll find me. I've made a promise to myself that I'm going to be on there more often, engaging with more people, sharing more content. That's my promise to myself for the remainder of this year. Or if people just want to go via our website and they can get on there, you can register for free. So I look after anyone that will be based in the Midlands, in Wales, and also the Southwest. So it's a good chunk of the country. So if you register online for our portal, it's free to get on there. I'll pick up your details straight away as your BDM anyway, and make a call to you within those sort of first 24 hours just to introduce myself, and just to let people know more detail how I can help.
Awesome. And listening to the people listening to this, there will be people that are big on LinkedIn. So go and connect with Adam. He's going to be making a conscious effort to put more content out there. If you guys can engage with it and start a conversation, even if you're not going to do business with Adam, it would be great to try and give him that boost on LinkedIn to take your engagement to the next level. And as a thank you, we like to donate £10 to a charity of your choice. So which one would you like us to donate to?
So I'll pick the charity called Tommy's. So UK-based charity providing research into people that unfortunately have suffered a case of miscarriage, stillbirths, or premature babies. And my colleague Hayley, who's really popular on LinkedIn, is doing the Great North Run shortly. So she's in training mode for that with her Movin Legal trainers. And she's picked them as a charity as well. So I've picked that charity to help support her in her mission as well.
Fantastic. We'll make that donation for you. Well,
Brilliant.
Adam, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. And anybody, go and connect with Adam, go and have a chat, or just literally just start looking at his LinkedIn content, because he said on this podcast he's going to ramp it up and hold him responsible. Thanks very much for coming on, mate.
Thanks, Chris. Cheers.